Okay, so there's been quite a lot going on in the last week or so in terms of energy prices, interest rates, and now a cut in stamp duty. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how this affects homeowners, and more specifically, how it affects homeowners who might be thinking about moving home. So buying a first property, a first-time buyer, it's often quite an easy decision really, because you're paying rent often and a mortgage payment might be somewhere in the region of the rent that you're paying, sometimes even less. And buying a property for those type of people is a bit of a no-brainer. Why pay someone else's mortgage when you can be paying for your own? Now when it comes to home movers, that's people that are already on the ladder but looking to potentially buy a bigger or more expensive property, it's always a bit more nuanced, because you've got to think about not just your rent versus your mortgage, but other things such as, well, we're happy that we live in this area, but we'd like an extra bedroom. We like the neighbours, we want to be nearer work. All these things, these yin and yangs, especially in a couple, all these reasons why some people might want to move or might not want to move. That's always been the case. So when it comes to external events, and we've had lots of them over the last few years, from Brexit and from general elections through to pandemics and to the energy crisis and what's happening in Ukraine, all these external events are going on, and people who are thinking that they might want to move up the ladder, I take a typically British view is let's just wait and see. Interest rates have been going up, energy prices are going up as well. The stamp duty holiday ended, and more people have decided to stay put in these last couple of years, and this has led to an enormous supply and demand problem. Far too many buyers, especially first-time buyers, looking for homes, but there's hardly anything up for sale. So what I would like to talk to you about today is the three things that have just happened: energy prices, the cap, interest rates going up, and a cut in stamp duty, and how this might affect potential home movers and why they might be encouraged onto the property market. So up until 1997, which is coincidentally the year that I started as a mortgage broker, stamp duty was payable at 0% or 1%, and it wasn't until 1997, that year, that the Blair and Brown government started tinkering with those bands. In some cases made it prohibitively more expensive for people to buy a property. Had lots and lots of changes since then, of course, with the stamp duty surcharge for buy-to-let landlords and stamp duty holidays off the back of COVID. But this new threshold that you're not going to pay stamp duty on properties up until £250,000 is designed as a stimulus again for the property market, and those specifically people looking to move up the ladder. Now most first-time buyers don't pay stamp duty anyway, but those moving up the ladder do, and it's one of those barriers which has now been removed for people who are thinking of moving from maybe their first home into that bigger home with the extra bedroom. They're no longer having to think so much about this enormous stamp duty charge and potentially up to £2,500 saving. So the second piece of recent news was the freeze put on energy caps. So that's been the big story for the last few months. People being very nervous, worried, anxious about their energy prices going up off the back of what's happening in Ukraine. So during the leadership election, both candidates were looking to obviously put something in place here to bring this under control. Truss has obviously won the election, the leadership election, and we've now got this in place, so now everyone knows where they're going. So when you're moving up the property ladder, one of the things you're thinking about is you're taking on this bigger house, more rooms, a higher energy bill, and one of the things that's been putting people off is this higher energy cap on this bigger house. So it's always been an issue for people, but it's really been in their minds. We've got this extra bedroom, these extra few rooms, how are we going to afford to keep it heated? So again, this is something that has been getting in the way of people moving up the ladder, again, potentially to some extent at least, being removed by the recent announcement. Mortgage rates. This is where the news is not quite so good, I'm afraid. So inflation has been going up, and the Bank of England's tool to curb and bring inflation back towards its 2% target is interest rates. So in my opinion, they were asleep at the wheel here, and we were very slow to start rising interest rates, and the US, for example, have been moving much quicker and much more aggressively than us on interest rates. Still, they're starting to catch up, and we've had a 0.5% increase only this week. on the back of several months now of previous increases. So this is being passed on to mortgage borrowers, so those looking to remortgage, coming off a deal, are looking at a high deal, and if you're looking to move up the property ladder, then you're taking on a bigger mortgage with a high rate of interest. So those mortgage payments are going to be more expensive. So that could still be something that puts a curb on the market. However, this is linked to the energy prices, because the idea behind putting the freeze on the cap of energy prices is to get inflation back under control. And once that finally happens, then interest rates should start to come down, and hopefully we'll see a return to some of those lower mortgages that we've been looking at in the past.